Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of The Trek Way. With Gray, welcome you as always. Cheers, Gray. Welcome back.
Howdy.
We're a day late. We're not really late. It's just we tried to do it the Thursday, but it's not always possible. Obviously, it was Thanksgiving in the States yesterday, so Gray is now absolutely probably still full of turkey and all kinds of goodness. So
Yeah, I guess
he was no
been
good
eating
for
leftovers today, probably tomorrow,
If we
probably the day
tried,
after
if we
that.
tried to record yesterday, he'd be lying back in his chair like, oh yeah,
That'd be food
snoring,
coma.
snoring. Yeah.
What'd you say about that episode?
Yeah, the meat sweats. You know what it's like. So yeah, we are back for another episode today. It's Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 15, called Masquerade. Yeah, Gray and I weren't as big a fan of this episode as usual. We'll keep our scores to the end, but yeah, that's safe to say, Gray. You would put that at the top of your list.
Yeah, not at the top of my list, no.
Maybe not at the bottom as well. We'll get another 5 episodes after this.
But we do an absolutely great review, and I point out all kinds of crazy stuff in this episode.
Well, yeah, that's how it works. Like, I miss some things, Gray picks them up. Gray misses some things, I pick them up, and then we put it in, and then before you know it, you've got a complete review. But yeah, no, we'll fire in then. We'll fire in, and we'll obviously try and talk up the good points of the episode and not be completely down on it. So there are some chuckles in this episode, like there are in every episode of Star Trek Prodigy.
Yep.
We open up, Gray, on the Protostar just going through space, doing its thing, and we have Dal doing his star date. But this time, because he's a kid and he's a bit bored, he just goes, star date, who cares? Pretty much. I had a chuckle at that. Did you find that amusing? Did you find that a bit cheeky? Are you very religious on the star date? I found it amusing.
I mean, considering that these are, again, supposed to be kids, whatever.
Yeah.
Or I hate to say kids because it makes it sound like they're 5 years old. You know, it's more like young adults or teenagers, I guess. Is better. So yeah, I would give the benefit of the doubt that a teenager once in a while that's fed up with something, whatever. You know,
and he happens to be flying a starship that's really powerful. It's a bit scary if you think about it.
Yeah, it is. I think that's why Vice Admiral Janeway's like, what are these kids?
I know. We had Murf last week sitting on one of the controls and firing a torpedo at the Dauntless. That just says it all.
The only one low point of that episode was that.
Oh, come on. You said it's been done so much before in cartoons and stuff. It has to be done. Right, yeah, so he's a bit bored at this stage. When we found out a little shortly why he's a little bit bored. Mr. Murf is back. He's walking. He's not used to his body. It's a bit like a toddler, Gray, just learning to walk and whatnot and do its thing. And he's like that as well. He's he's dual wielding 2 phasers. Don't know why. Firing them endlessly everywhere, having a great time, nearly killing his crew in the process. Which I had a chuckle with. But your man O'Connor, who we were both, at least I was calling him O'Connor last week, so apologies. No, it's O'Connor. That dodgy freight captain that picked up last week, he's still there. And I'm like, what's his angle? It's just a bit random. I'm thinking it's a little bit dodgy that he's still here, Gray. I'm thinking he's maybe up to no good.
Well, he hitchhiked, so, you know.
Hitchhiker, yeah, I would have a problem with hitchhikers. It just seemed a bit random, but we'll get to him in a little bit. He for whatever reason, he decides to trap Murf in a large hamster ball. Now, why a hamster ball and why he's in it for most episode, I don't know, but it's maybe his new hole. I just a little bit.
I don't know. There's I get confused sometimes because Murf seems to be like, well, first he's a pet, no, and then he's a member of the crew. Okay, I get it. Then he's morphed, or not really morphed, but I guess evolved into whatever different form he's in now. But they still kind of treat him like a pet sometimes. And I'm like, you all got to make up your mind. Is he a pet? Is he a member of the crew? I mean, what's going
he's something else, but we'll get to that. What it ends up being.
Right.
Do you know who he reminds me of? Like the physical form. Haribo, you know, the sweeties, the candies for kids and adults.
Haribo. The gummy bear
he
thing.
Looks like, he looks like a little gummy bear thing, like the walking gummy bear thing. But I love Murf. Everyone loves Murf. You put here, Gray, that Dal was having the beginnings of an identity crisis. Is that when he's doing his daydreaming stuff at the start? Yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning, he's obviously suffering from issues of who he's been suffering from issues of who he is all along the series. So I think they're just kind of it's coming to a head in this episode, as we're going to see as we do it. The only thing with Murf, like I was saying before, is I thought the whole thing with the phasers in his hand going crazy was absolutely stupid.
I didn't understand it. Why? If he didn't know how to fire it and he accidentally fired it near one of his colleagues, maybe, but going like this on purpose, I didn't get that.
I mean, my only thing is now, ever since he evolved into this new form, it sounds like his brain is devolved backwards because now he's acting like a complete idiot. Before he wasn't acting so stupid, so now he's like, sure, I just happened to pick up 2 phasers from somewhere and decide to shoot them all over the place. Like, wait a minute, you were at least somewhat intelligent before. What happened to you? So it was just like, come on. Yeah. And he's cutting up the stairs and just spinning around. You know, it could have killed his whole crew, but yeah, okay.
I'm thinking it's because he's got hands now. I don't think he had hands before. I may be wrong. I don't think he did. So he's got hands. He's doing silly things.
Well, technically, and we'll kind of see later in the episode, but technically, I don't think he does. It's just that he's evolved into a form where he can do different things. So in order to identify or do stuff that the crew can do, now he knows how to make hands and legs.
Oh, is that what you meant? Right, okay. No, that's what I meant. I thought you meant he was a walking Haribo without arms or hands, and I was thinking that's a bit strange.
No, it's he's manufactured his own hands and feet to be more bipedal like the rest of the crew. He doesn't have to be. He just chooses to be, I think. And we'll see why later in the episode without giving it away.
Our favourite type of species, the bipedal type. Unless you like species 8472. But yeah, so we move on, and I like this part here. At first, with this character Grey, without giving it away for a split second, before we get his name, I was wondering who this guy was. Oh, I recognise that bloody voice. Who is it? Turns out it's your man Admiral Jellicoe. He's back. The dodgy guy that was involved with Riker and the Pegasus. It was him in the Pegasus project, wasn't it? So I must... Now, this timeline didn't make a bit of sense to me, because if this is Jellicoe who was... No, do you know who it was? It wasn't... my apologies, it wasn't. He was the guy that took charge of Enterprise D while Picard went on that secret mission to Cardassia, the Five Lights. Five lights. Remember that? That was him. Because I was thinking it was the guy involved with the Riker and the starship that was cloaking against the Treaty of Algernon, but it wasn't, because that was before. So yeah, that's where that came from. Jellicoe is back. I never really liked him back then because he kind of messed about with Picard. I'm not a fan of anyone that does that. He's basically denying Vice Admiral Janeway's I call her real Janeway. Grey calls her VA Janeway now, Vice Admiral Janeway. I like that. Nice one, Grey. Real Janeway's request to go into the neutral zone. She's obviously wanting to follow Protostar. She can't because she's not allowed to, but she's basically saying, you know, this is a weapon that Romulans can't get a hold of. And he says, well, you know, destroy it if you have to. Did you like seeing Admiral Jellicoe back? You did notice that, was it him that you said, Gray, that you didn't like the voice acting from?
Yeah, I thought that I'm sorry, maybe the voice actor does other stuff that's good, but the voice actor in this playing Admiral Jellicoe sounded like way too juvenile. The acting was bad. I mean, he was overemphasizing words that made it sound more like a typical cartoon. Because in typical cartoons that are funny, I always say Bugs Bunny, but there's lots of them like this. And they use these over-exaggerated voices on purpose. And it just seems like they plucked this guy from that world and brought him into the Star Trek Prodigy world. And I'm sitting there going like, dude, why are you overacting on this? This should just be played straight. And yet he's sitting there just making all these really odd inflections and forced voices and stuff like this. And I'm going like, this guy doesn't even sound real.
Do you not at all? Do you not think it was the guy that played Admiral Jellicoe on the TV show? I thought it was him. Must have been.
maybe it was, but I don't know for sure. We'll check it out. But I just thought the whole scene was this overacting, overemphasis, over everything in his voice. He like when he says Vice Admiral Janeway, right? He was trying to be stern, right? And he goes, Vice Admiral Janeway. And I'm like, who talks like that?
Like, apparently.
Yeah, but it just sounded so bad. It sounded so fake and sounded so like condescending, like I'm talking to a child and they just overacted. And I'm just like, ugh, this is like,
all I can think, Gray, is it probably was. I mean, you tend to not use a character like that unless you can get the person who played that character to come back and voice or act the part. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. You try and get your guy or gal if you can. It's probably that I can't, and none of us off the top of our head know the actor's name, but I liked his performance in The Next Generation. I just didn't like that he was a kind of semi-bad guy in that respect. For me, he's probably not used to the voice acting. He's probably that's maybe his first role he's been asked to do for voice acting, or he's done very few, so he's not used to it. And there is an art to it, as we've discussed. There's definitely an art. It's not easy having nothing in front of you, and have to do this and all this and into a microphone,
If that's true, then I would go back and say it's the director's fault. I mean, these people will do multiple takes until they get it right. So there's no excuse to have something like that slip by when you could easily just directed them and say, "Hey, look."
Or the person that done the audition, if there was one.
Right. I mean, the director should have said, "Listen, that's really sounding forced. Got to tone that back a little bit and talk a little more, serious, whatever, And then he would have delivered the lines differently, and it would have been fine. So I really fault the directing, and maybe I fault the directing entirely instead of the acting. So I may be way off base because it's up to the director to have that come off sounding proper.
Yeah, it's a good shout, Graham. I'm not going to argue with that one, to be fair. Jellicoe's back, and he's been his usual arsey self. Not much has changed there.
By the way, just to interject, I thought the writing of the reasons he was giving Jellicoe for not giving her the rights to go into the neutral zone actually are pretty sound.
Of course, yeah.
I mean,
there's rules.
So that was fine, right? So the writing to that, it was fine. It was just the way he delivered all the lines that sucked. But it made sense. But it made less sense or sounded less believable because the lines just weren't delivered right.
Yeah. Yeah, not directing there, maybe just not the best in that respect. So after the little telling off from Jellicoe to Vice Admiral Janeway, she's obviously frustrated at this stage. The crew back in the Protostar, they rock up to a place called Noble Isle on O'Connor's suggestion, because this is a place outside Federation jurisdiction. There's a space elevator at the top that literally takes you down to the planet, which we love to see because there's science fiction there galore. There's theory, real life theory based on us, and it's nice to see another one in Star Trek. It's the only way you can get up and down from this planet because of the what did they call it, Gray?
I think it was the atmosphere and ionic
discharges and whatnot.
Interference.
It's a typical line in Star Trek when you just want to give a story angle. I don't have a problem with it, to be fair.
Well, if you think about it, it's pretty cool because it makes sense. If the place is kind of dodgy, where would you want to be located? Below an atmosphere that you would have a hard time, trying to figure out.
And it's dodgy as hell, this place, as we get to see. It really is. The crew actually take the elevator down to the planet, and Gray and I both agree it is very cool to see this. Like, it's based on sci-fi. It's in sci-fi a lot, and there is real science behind it. What I note here is when they're going down this the elevator, there's this display that comes on here, in-flight entertainment, if you will, and this dodgy character comes on, this dodgy doctor, and she says basically that this is the place to come to for augmentations and alterations to your system and all that, and you're just thinking, there's a reason that the Federation, because I think to note here is Jamie does say before you go, be careful, because, in the neutral zone, this is not a sanctioned place. Be careful when you go down there. This is what they're known for. We don't sanction any of this because it's not safe. But it's going to go somewhere. Clearly with this angle, they wouldn't have mentioned that.
Sure.
So yeah, they go down to the planet. They meet. They said dodgy geneticist, a Dr. Jackal, who I put in here in brackets. Michael ? He. No, it's not that Michael Jackson. I'm pretty sure he's still dead. But yeah, she's called Dr. Jackal. And Wacko Jackal, there might be something to this.
Yeah,
there might be something to this. And this, you just look at her, you look at this Dr. Grey, and you think, yeah, this is one dodgy chick. She's up to no good. This episode's going to go south. Someone's going to get alterations. I knew off the bat, as soon as she was mentioned. Why would you mention what she does if they're not going to change someone?
It was way too obvious that's what was going to happen.
Exactly. You got to use it for
another little bit of bad writing. They could have kind of made it a little harder to guess.
Yeah, until you actually get down there. Exactly. But hey, kudos to the name, Dr. Jackal. We love it. She's fascinated at this stage, Gray, with Dal. We first initially, who does she? No, we think she looked like she was Murf.
Murf, yeah, she looked like she was looking at Murf, but not really.
Him. Yeah, she
goes right back. Yeah,
right to Dal. Fascinated with his tail and his neck,
his skin color, and the appendage back here,
everything.
All the other things.
What did they call that thing sticking out there? It's
I think they call it ganglia.
That's it. It's what Saru's got in Discovery, isn't it? He had that. They cut that off. Spoiler in case you didn't know that, Gray. But yeah, so she's fascinated with him. She's not saying, she knows where he came from, but what he came from. And I'm like, what? Gray notes here. 26 species, Gray. I forgot that part. That many. You thought that was a bit too much. And I agree with you, mate.
Like way too much.
A few, 3, 4, maybe, but 26, that doesn't happen to anyone ever.
No. And first of all, it would be probably almost impossible to be able to blend 26 species all together and have the character actually live.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just getting really overboard, which is going on with the theme we've been talking about with this episode.
But it's a kid show, Gray, as you keep reminding me.
No, but this has gone way kid now. Like, they'll believe anything we write at this point.
That's true.
And I go, no.
You're sculpting their young minds, so please don't make it crap. I think that's what you're
right, exactly. keep it semi-intelligent. I'll accept some goofy things, but not just no. That's just another one. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, Gray. I'm glad you picked up on the 26 species thing. Dal's identity crisis, as Gray notes here, has hit a high peak now because he's just feeling like he is a failed experiment, rightly so, because he's a test tube baby essentially. He doesn't have parents as such, and he feels really down. The doctor obviously, of course, offers to upgrade him, change him. He says no, thank you. Yeah. And I was like, that's
we can
nice.
Make you better.
Yeah, we can make you. But what
we can fix you.
Define better, but and then we're like, at this stage, we're like, okay, yeah, he done the right thing. I'm surprised by that. As soon as the rest of the crew go out the room, though, he literally goes up to her quickly again and goes, how long will it take? And I was like, oh, here we go.
I think the whole reason he did that, it was obvious because Okuna left the room with the crew, and he's bragging about
you've
stuff.
Changed his name.
Yeah, I probably did that by accident. Never mind, Okuna. Yeah, Okuna. Whatever. By the way, I gotta double check this because I could be wrong. But in the previous episode where we first met this character, right?
Yeah.
His name was O'Connor.
Are you sure?
I'm almost 100% positive.
So was
I looked at the credit,
yeah.
And I wrote O'Connor into our notes because I double checked this. And now all of a sudden it's Okana, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm gonna go back and check that. But if I'm right, and I'm pretty sure I am, then writing slip up.
Maybe it was O'Connor, Gray, but maybe this episode was written from someone from Boston.
Unless his first name was O'Connor, but that would be kind of weird.
Maybe it was someone that wrote it from Boston. You know how they shorten everything a lot.
That's it. Kind of.
That's what it was, man. Yeah. No, listen.
I will double check and get back to you on the next review.
I thought it was O'Connor as well, to be fair. And then it's when he said O'Connor, I turned on subtitles, and then after that, I then went to the description of Wikipedia for the episode, and it had O'Connor there as well. So, if anyone knows for sure, put a comment below and let us know. Either way,
right? Otherwise, I'll find out either way. We'll see.
We will come to you mentioned here Gray O'Connor bragging. Did I miss that part there?
No, because you were
Protostar.
The part you missed is you didn't mention RX Sung. So we're kind of
I did miss that. You're right. I did. I was jumping it. Do you know what it was? It was the Dr. Jacko stuff that completely put me off. No, that's a good point. Well done, Gray. I know you would do it eventually. It was the lab project. When we mentioned augmentation at the start, I automatically thought of Sung, and no wonder. It turns out, it was Dr. Eric Sung, played by
Protege. So in other words,
Protege, not
students of Eric Sung.
Exactly. You just hear Sung, don't you? And you go, "What do we both think, Gray?" We're like, "Oh, not again." They've done this to death.
I know. I hear this and I'm going like, come on. Now they've mentioned Sung like 90,000 times in the last couple different series. We know already. Okay, we get it. Sung was the genetics. It's almost as if Sung was the only guy that played around with genetics back then. So you mean to tell me that back then with Wrath of Khan and all that stuff that happened before, Sung was the guy? Okay, I get it. He was the guy that was the top of his field or whatever. But of course, nobody else was doing this.
Yeah. Right. It's too much.
So they got to keep on throwing the word Sung around. And the other reason I think, and this is just just on a personal note, and I think you would agree too, when they start saying Sung all the time, they keep on going back to Brent Spiner again.
Yeah.
I've seen enough of Brent Spiner. Brent Spiner's been all over the place. He's been all in these Picard season 1 and 2, and now he's going to be back again. And I'm almost going like, please don't. I'm tired of him. Use other characters. So it's just like
essentially, don't kill Data off if you want to have him in the TV show or the movies more in the future, right. But you killed him off, so live with it, man. No, they have.
No, I did a little quick research because I just felt I needed to know a little more about this, and all it was is that they took a lot of this from, or the homages are thrown back to Star Trek Enterprise, another show. But anyway, so Sung was in, or the real Dr. R.X. Sung, Brent Spiner again, was the rogue geneticist that was in Star Trek Enterprise that they refer to in this episode, that eventually got kicked out of Starfleet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a little throwback. What I didn't know, though, is the character that we saw in the last 2 episodes or whatever, Barnes Flex, was I can't pronounce this right. The Noblin
Dr. Phlox from Enterprise.
Right, and apparently that goes back to Enterprise as well as the Xindi. So this all came from Star Trek Enterprise, or the referrals or the homages, if you want. Yeah. And that's just a pet peeve of mine because I didn't like that series much. So I'd rather see homages to all the other shows.
I'm a bit annoyed, Gray, because I missed out on the fact that Barnes Frex is Denobulan. I thought it was human. I must have missed that. The certain ridges he's got in his face because, well, you don't like Enterprise. And it's not my favourite show either. Dr. Phlox was one of the bright, shining stars in that TV show. He had... This was the cross between old medicine and new medicine. So because it's before the original series, there was some things that could... modern stuff from now, but they used things like leeches and all that back in Enterprise. They didn't have the dermal regenerator. They didn't have that at this stage. So he would literally, he was a bit cuckoo, this doctor. He had things all around sickbay. He had like all different animals in little cages that would, for medicinal things that would actually help out along with some modern science at the same time. He actually, at one point, put off a similar... The Borg were in Enterprise, but they weren't called the Borg at this stage. It was like a prequel thing. He actually managed to stave off being assimilated because he was that intelligent and smart in a way. He uses some kind of radiation and this kind of CAT scanner thing to actually almost kill him as well. But he's a smart cookie. He's wacky. He's funny. And I don't know if they CGI'd this or he's just augmented himself in real life, the actor. When he smiled, I swear to God, the ridges of the smile went up to nearly his eyes. It was a bit freaky, actually. He's got a defense mechanism as well. They've got almost like a puffer fish where the face goes up like this. It's a bit disturbing as well.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah,
that
it's
really
not. It's a bit creepy. But yeah, no, we're off track, of course, on purpose. But he was the Romulans. They're allowed something like 5 wives and 5 husbands, and they live forever. And yeah, they're part of the Federation, obviously, at this stage. So they're big key species. So thank you for pointing that out, Gray, actually, because I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because Silly Trevor went past the important thing. Yeah, so soon again, we're sick of them. They've done it to death. They've augmented them. They've brought them back to life. They killed them off again. It's never ending. Just leave it be, please. I think safe to say.
Yep.
Now, moving on from this section here, we're on the Dauntless and Vice Admiral Janeway. Okay, you win, Gray. I'm not real. Janeway doesn't have the same ring to it.
Okay.
Vice Admiral Janeway. Her ensign, who I can't remember the name. It's a weird one.
I can't either.
I think it's the only ensign that's referred to on the Dauntless.
Right.
She offers to actually go into the neutral zone because she knows Vice Admiral Jamie can't, nor can she take the ship in. But if she does it herself, it's only her that it would most likely only be on her shoulders. Vice Admiral Jamie's like, no, you don't need to do that kind of thing. But however, Vice Admiral Jamie, she's a smart cookie. She's thinking, if they're thinking of doing this, the Romulans are probably thinking of doing this. And it turns out she was right. It turns out she was right. They were doing their usual sneak, and they literally beam onto the Noble Isle space elevator and skydive down to the planet. But at this whole time, Janeway's telling her ensign, like, listen in. I want to know if they are actually going down. Now, how they can listen in, I don't know, Gray. I think the Romulans are not stupid. I'm pretty sure they're encrypted to hell.
I think it was more along the lines of telling her to listen in, but yeah, you're right. It's just kind of
they wouldn't know. They would hear noise, but it'd be encrypted.
Yeah.
You know, so again,
this is the beginning of the Tal Shiar being like not the Tal Shiar. I mean, we'll get into more of that as we go along, but
that's a good point, Gray. Actually, because Gray will get to that when he's like they're just a bit silly and a bit daft, really, and because the Tal Shiar are one of the great intelligent organizations in Alpha Quadrant, and unfortunately they're starting to go downhill before their planet goes downhill, I think. But yeah, look, diversion. So at this stage now, Gray, we Dal seems to have actually had the implant or the upgrade done. Now, I was kind of hoping to see this as disturbing and Dr. Frankenstein of me, if you want. I was kind of hoping we'd actually say it, but we don't. His upgrades so far seems to be, and there's multiple things and it goes through many stages. He can now read minds. Now I'm thinking, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Even if you upgrade someone, that's got to be like the Betazoids. That's got to be, you can't give that to someone with genetics. You're born with it. And even then, in Star Trek, I always thought telepathy was a bit far-fetched for Star Trek. Don't know if you disagree with that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the only ones that truly supposedly read minds were some really advanced aliens. I mean, really advanced aliens. Otherwise, it'd be more on an empathy scale or more of a feeling or a gut reaction.
That's Betazoids, isn't it? They can't read it directly. Right, exactly. They don't know. They just know, oh, you're sad, you're happy. You know?
Right. Which makes total sense. Yet this augmentation, he comes right out and like, oh, I read your mind. Like,
yeah, right, yeah. Come on, bullshit.
I said, I mean, I made a note here. I just said this again. Another terrible scene. Another piece of bad writing. Another juvenile BS.
Yeah.
Everything's happening just way too easy. No explanations. And I'm like, come on. This can't get worse from here. But of course it does.
Kid show, Gray. Kid show. Sorry, I'm winding you up because you always say
I know. But now it's
but annoyed you.
off the deep end, man.
I know.
It's it's just it's getting to be too much, and it's not over yet.
See,
we got more to talk about.
The Betazoid thing is interesting because, while they can't read minds directly, they feel emotions. I certainly, and I think people in Star Trek take the piss out of Deanna Troi a lot, because if you watch the Picard season 3 trailer, her one scene I think in that is, I can't remember exactly what she says, but I'll paraphrase something like, I feel great anger, sad, you know, whatever. It's the usual bloody line. How many times has that been done? Is that all she's good for? Right. She's good for being depressed and great and crashing one of the best starships in Star Trek history. Well done, Deanna. No, we love her really. Deanna. We love her really, especially in the first couple of seasons with TNG when she was wearing different outfits, but that's a different story. And so were guys that were wearing skirts. Always blew my mind, that thing. But yeah, anyway, so at this stage here, he's reading O'Connor's mind. And the scene is a bit terrible for that reason, because he literally is being really immature at this stage now, because he doesn't like him. Earlier on in the episode, he was daydreaming a little bit of, I forgot to mention this, of O'Connor getting sucked into the vastness of space for an airlock, because I think he's got a thing for Gwen, and Gwen's talking to O'Connor, and they're kind of getting cozy for a kid show, cozy, I guess. So I
think they're taking a real thing, which means, as we've seen through the other episodes that were done much better than this, that he has a real, he wants to be part of a family because he never had one, and so all that's, I get it, I understand it, and why he has the identity crisis, and why he wants to feel wanted by the rest of his crew, aka his family. But here in this episode, they bring it to ridiculous heights where he acts like an 8-year-old.
Yeah, he's going,
and he's going, all through the episode. I'm like, oh, don't do this, please.
You're supposed to be a mature teenager, a captain of a starship or something,
No, they're supposedly, even though they have their moments because they're young, they still haven't acted too juvenile.
Yeah, I agree. They're actually semi-mature for what it is, if you think about it, Greg.
Right. But in this episode, it's like, let's all digress to 8-year-olds. Oh, boy.
See, we can't complain too much considering what it is, but considering they're being semi-mature until this stage, I get it. Of course I do. You're right. So first thing he can do is mind read, and he's very agile and stuff. He's doing handstands and gymnast as well. He's clearly a gymnast at the same time, and the genetics. We both didn't like that. We go back to the Protostar, and at this point, it's only Zero, Jankum, and Hollow Janeway that are there. The Romulans managed to sneak in board. God knows why. I mean, Jesus Christ. You don't just sneak in board a high security experimental starship. I never noted this, but that's too easy. I'm sorry. All I can think is it's kids and they forgot to lock the garage door before they left.
Well, this is the one scene I didn't find that was too unbelievable, only because, again, they're the Tal Shiar.
Yeah.
And they're good at this kind of stuff. So that part I can let that slide. Not to mention that because it's a young crew, maybe they still don't know all the security protocols. So fine, I go along with that one. That was at least believable.
Yeah. These Romulan agents, because Gray's got a point here. These Romulan agents, the Tal Shiar, they come on. They literally, it's stun at this stage. They literally stun all of them. I'm surprised they didn't try and kill them right off the bat. That is interesting. But no, they stun them all because they're not dead later on. Spoiler alert. And they need access to the computer. I mean, what were they thinking they were going to get on there and get straight into the Protostar systems? No, that's the one realistic thing they've done. It's encrypted. They can't get in. They need the captain. They need to get hold of Dal. Maybe they thought the crew would still be on board. I guess 2 of them still were. You noted. Actually, no. I'm jumping ahead of myself. At this stage here, Vice Admiral Janeway is preparing to fire upon the Protostar. I don't know if it's because she sees she knows the Romulans have actually tried to board the ship or are boarding the ship. But get these micro torpedoes. I think they were, Grey. I've never heard this in Star Trek. Is that just a small torpedo? Is that so it can't be scanned by anything? What?
I mean, I'm assuming that I try to think of whether I've ever heard of this in Star Trek before. Maybe it has been said before, Again, I can let that slide too, okay, because it's not impossible to say that you can make a much smaller torpedo. So okay, fine. I get it. So that I can go along with too. I'm not too bent out of shape on that.
Two of these micro torpedoes are enough to take out a starship, unless its shields were down.
She did say that she wasn't going to blow it up. She wanted to disable.
Yeah, that's true. I think they're smart torpedoes. I think they're smart torpedoes somehow. They can change and do things last minute, as we'll see.
I guess apparently they're a lot smarter than this episode, but hey, that's another story.
A smart torpedo. Where did I seen that before? Voyager. Planetoris' smart missile, the AI one. Greg, you noticed you noted something underneath about VA Janeway. Now the teenagers against her on the Tal Shiar bit.
Right, I thought what Vice Admiral Janeway says at this point to be very, very prophetic, if you want to call it that, to the episode, and she says something that I was thinking about just before she actually said it, during the episode, and she says teenagers against the Romulan Tal Shiar, and she's going like, good luck, right? That's how she said. That's how she said it. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, exactly. I said, there's no way the Tal Shiar can't be this stupid or this inept. You're talking about in Star Trek lore, or if you want to make an equivalent to today, it's the highest Secret Service type agency.
Yeah,
the best of the best, like the Navy SEALs,
even over Section 31, I would say, arguably.
Right, exactly. I mean, they are the best of the best of the best, and yet they look like they're idiots. In so far, and as I said, it gets worse. So Janeway was being really truthful. So I'm going like, so apparently the writers got it, and they decided to put a line in there saying that she says, yeah, teenagers against Romulan Tal Shiar, yeah, good luck. Exactly, and yet they just continue to roll with it anyway.
Well, this is probably the Tal Shiar, or the Romulan species as we know them, starting to go down the tube before their planet went down the tube. I mean, that's... Sorry for any Romulans out there listening.
But if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but even when the Romulan homeworld or moon blew up or whatever, and they had these issues where the Romulans are now spread across the galaxy somewhat, there's still a group, there's still Romulans, and they still have the Tal Shiar. It's still around.
And they still have the others. They have the other ones as well, don't they, Gray? From Picard season 1.
Yeah, I mean,
remember what they were called?
They may be a bit right. So they may be a bit fractionated, but they're still there. They're still a group. They just don't have a solid place per se. So again, even as bad as Picard season 2 was, the Tal Shiar didn't look as stupid as they do in this episode.
No, but they were saying in Picard there was a level up from the Tal Shiar. I can't remember what they were called again. They had a weird dodgy name. Do you recall what it was?
Yeah.
No, I pass as well. But people listening will probably be able to figure it out. I didn't like that angle anyway. But so we'll touch a bit more why the Tal Shiar end up being a bit dumb, to be fair, because it gets worse for them, to be fair. Again, kids show...
It's kind of like a sickness. They continue to get dumber and dumber as the episode goes on.
Yeah, so that's probably... Yeah, at the start you see them...
Maybe it's a genetic thing. Maybe they planted dumb genes in them.
Well, maybe they went to see the doctor, Dr. Jacko, first.
I was like, can you augment me here?
We're going to Dr. Jacko, could you make us a bit dumb to give the kids a bit of a chance? But yeah, no, jesting aside, the Romulans, so they can't get access to Protostar's computers, so they go back down to the planet, and they try to capture the crew, but Dal activates more of his abilities. Before he does that, actually, they're looking for the captain. They go straight for O'Connor. I mean, I would as well. He looks captain material, to be fair. He's like a freight captain. So they go towards him, and that's when Dal literally is like, well, you think he's the captain? And then he goes, oh, what have I just admitted to them?
Right.
Pointing the phaser right at him. It was dumb. He activates more of his abilities. There's a... When he gets... So I thought they were doing something like with his genes in terms of gene therapy or whatever. So
that's right.
The device is like, really? That seems a bit cheap and a bit crap.
The whole device was so stupid.
That's why he's dodgy, I think.
There's a button on the back of his neck, and they just sit there and go like, oh, just push the button, and all this shit starts happening. I'm like, You got to be kidding me! Come on now.
That easy.
You just push a button and all of a sudden, zing.
Hey,
again, we're back to the Bugs Bunny stuff.
But Gray, out of all his mutations and stuff, the coolest one has got to be his goatee. I mean, if I can push a button there that gives me a goatee, like a Spock, evil Spock from Mirror Universe, he has this thing going, and he has the tash, but at the start it's just a goatee, and I'm thinking, nice, I wish I had a button to do that.
So in other words, it's pushing him through puberty or something.
Something, yeah, kinda. I mean, his voice.
Some other things are going on that we can't mention. We just, Hey,
so there is other mutations we'll touch on just now because Gray touches on a point here I want to follow up on. While this whole thing's happening, O'Connor disappears. He goes, right, since you don't think I'm Captain, I'm out here. And that's the last we see of him. So I thought at the start there was something dodgy going on with him. It's not. He's just a pussy. He's a coward, and he does one. We don't see him again.
Exactly.
Whatever. That's just a waste of a character, if you ask me. But
he doesn't want to be in trouble, and he's a 2-bit nothing, and he takes off.
He's a pussy. So he's off. I don't think we'll see him again. Never know. Waste of a character, really is. Part of the things that are happening to Dal is he gets Endorian antennae for one. He gets pointy ears.
And starts talking like a Vulcan.
Yeah, like everything. It's just very logical. But let's say I point out the Mirrorverse Spock because the way he looks, his voice goes kind of weird and dark, deep, like pushing through puberty, as Gray just kind of alluded to. It kind of probably was. It's like, do you want to bypass puberty? Beep. There we go. So Gray's not happy this scene. You mentioned Bugs Bunny's got mentioned. Gray.
I think I think both of us agree that he's going through augmentations, like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, like going into different faces all of a sudden. And I'm sitting there looking at this, going like, "Oh my lord, this is just so stupid." And he just goes through these different changes, turning in like growing teeth or growing ears or growing
whatever.
It's too much. It's just way too much. And it's just like, come on. If I wanted a Bugs Bunny cartoon, I'd watch that. They do it a lot better. But this is not a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Speaking. You go, Gray. Finish.
No, go ahead. So you just I made the point. Go ahead.
Apologies for interrupting you. You were speaking of cartoon characters a few times, and I believe, though it's nothing to do with it, you do a decent Mickey Mouse, Gray, don't you?
Yeah. I'm not going to sneak Mickey Mouse in here, but then again, you never know. They could have thrown that in there, and then they get in a lot of trouble. Though. So.
If you want to hear Gray's Mickey Mouse impression, put it in the comments, and we'll make him do it for our next episode. Or you could just come along to Extreme PC UK Discord that we're part of, and he sometimes makes an ass of himself, and he does it on there. So
yeah,
there's a perfect
excuse to find out. Goodbye.
Oh yeah, he did.
Anyway, you get the picture from what we're saying. It's increasingly getting dumber and dumber as we go along.
It was,
but here we go.
It's a bit wacky. It's a bit Dr. Wacko. At this stage here, now this is where things got worse with Tal Shiar and their intelligence genes. The Tal Shiar are literally chasing the crew. The crew are trying to get back to the Protostar. They are going back up the space elevator. The fire on the elevator, breaking the glass. At this stage, though, they're already suited up, helmets and stuff on, thankfully. And Murf sees this. Murf sees that Dal's leaking, right? Because the augmentations are going nuts now. They're going too much. This is another thing. And he starts.
I'm glad you pointed that out. All of a sudden, he's like oozing slime, and I'm going like, "What's next?"
Maybe that's the logical, sensible. The only sensible part of this, Great. If you were mutating that much, I think something would start leaking with me as well. To be fair, so maybe fair play.
Yeah, like everything, and then you die.
Yeah, well, that's probably what would have happened if they hadn't got to him at the end. Murf sees the leakage from him and throws up the hamster bullet. I just chuckled at this because he's supposed to be a goofy little character, and even he has limits, Murf. So poor Dal's not too good. Murf's not too good because he sees this. The dumbness continues with the Romulans try to jump from one elevator lift to the other.
Elevator to the other, right.
And one of them slips on Dal's slime and falls to his death back down the planet. I'm just like, what?
Again, we're back to the Bugs Bunny falling off a cliff thing. It's like, oh man, come on, you don't be slipping on slime.
Can you do a good Bugs Bunny as well, Gray?
Oh wait, I did forget though. It is Nickelodeon, right? And they do things with slime all the time. So I guess they had to stick it in the show somehow.
No, but they don't make the show. They just show it. I'm pretty sure it is.
No, I understand, but their names.
I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Yeah. So another dumb scene. Slime time. No. So yeah, Slime's killed one Romulan right off the bat. Dumb scene. We don't like this. We then Gwen's literally using that bit of metal she's got that morphs into anything, and she's using it as a shield. But Rock tells her to put the shield down. And she's like, why? Just trust me. Turns out she knows when there's going to be lightning about to hit. Now, first of all, just tell that to Rock and don't go, trust me. If you know what your plan is, quickly say what it is to give people confidence. But no, Grey notes here. When did she know it was going to happen? Now, very good point, Grey. All I could think is, I don't know if she had a pad on her at the time or something, and I don't mean she's incontinent. I mean she's got her iPad thing, and she's sitting on this. I think she was using some kind of display to know, because how else would she know? She wouldn't. Impossible. Maybe not the best.
I don't care if you even have a whatever device, a tricorder.
You still
or
can't
whatever.
guess it down to that.
No, I mean she sees that they have metal guns, so okay, I understand. Metal guns, will attract electricity, whatever. Yeah. But just because I run out in a lightning storm, not that you would ever do this, but run out in a lightning storm with a piece of metal, like a metal rod in your hand, which again would be all pretty stupid. But even if I were to do that, that doesn't mean I'm going to get hit by lightning. The chances of me getting hit, of course, are greater, yes. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you're going to get hit. So she just goes, oh, he has a metal weapon, so he will definitely get hit by lightning, and it'll happen right now. And then she says, yeah, drop your defenses, Gwen. Just get killed. Why not, Gwen? And then all of a sudden, the lightning bolt comes just when Rock said it would, just pretty much, and boom, they get electrocuted.
I'm sure those elevator things are made out of metal as well, Gray. And you could say the fire cage, but it's open at this stage.
It was a very weak way to sit there and solve the problem. But if you're going to use the dumb way to do that, okay, then don't sit there and act like I know when the lightning's going to hit. You just do it anyway. Yeah. Like it could have been a very tense scene where they were taking aim at them and they had them by sights and they were going to, kill them. And an errant lightning bolt came out of nowhere, which would be possible, and ends up killing him. So that would have been fine. But no, Rock's got to go like, trust me, this lightning bolt's going to come out of the sky any minute. It's like, come on, man.
I thought you were going to do an accent there for us, Dan.
I know. So dumb scene number 93, right? And
There's quite a lot of them.
Going. It just keeps going.
You ever wonder why their planet went down the tube? That's no wonder. And the Federation had to come and try and save their asses. Is there any wonder? But yeah, so at this stage, Vice Admiral Janeway she's forced to fire on the Protostar. She sees the Romulans. At this stage, she thinks the Romulans are certainly on board and they're going to take the Protostar. But we have the typical storytelling trope where it seems like forever she gets ready to fire, and it seems like the firing thing is on hold for a good few minutes, because we then go back to Murf, who I absolutely love this little guy now that he's morphed into God knows what now. He is released on Dal's command. He's just let him out. Dal's struggling here with everything. He's got tusks and he's a mess, man. He's a genetic
But he's
mess.
Smart enough to figure out open a hamster ball.
Yeah, because you see Murf go like this and bang it, and he's getting angry, and he's like a little guard dog. Let him out. He sees that. Gray liked this because, Murf is an unknown, as Gray notes here. He is at this stage. Still, we don't know what he's going to do, and he's a bit agitated, so let him out. And he literally wrecks all the Romulans. It just absolutely kicks all their asses.
But the cool thing about it is, did it look a little cartoony? Yeah, but that's okay, because again, we don't know what he is or what species he is. We have learned that he's practically indestructible. So this is all good. It's all unknown. So how Murf was able to grab them and solve the issue? They were totally taken by surprise. They didn't know what the hell this thing was either.
Yeah.
So it all made. So this was one of the very few things in this episode that actually more or less made sense.
Agreed.
So Murf to the rescue, and he basically knocks them all out and throws some of them off the elevator and other things, because he's morphing into different things, and stuff are being stretchy and malleable, et cetera, et cetera. So that was cool. That was fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we love Murf. We do. And I think there's a lot more to come from actually on what he can do. But what I found amusing is once he'd finished, he literally launched himself back into the hamster ball and carried on with his little cute awesomeness and little cute noises he makes. I'm like, what? Gwen literally after this says, looks up, we found our new security officer. There
Which actually was a great line. One of the very, very few lines in this episode, but that was a good one. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's funny. That's cool. That was funny and cool.
I agree. That made sense. It gave him a proper place. I think at this stage, everyone's got a proper position type place on the ship, which is good.
Yeah.
At this stage here, Janeway, Vice Admiral Janeway, aborts the micro torpedo she's firing because she sees that the crew and that they're on board or they're not on board at this stage. Great, it gets confusing.
It was confusing for me too because they didn't really say. I was assuming that Janeway knew at that point that the crew was close enough to the ship, the Protostar, that they could possibly get hurt, or get on the ship before the torpedoes hit and then be killed. So she had to abort the torpedo. So all that was fine and all that made sense as well.
Yeah. I mean, well, we're never going to blow up the Protostar, not at this stage anyway. Even if they blow it up at the end of this season, I'll still be angry because it's just bloody came onto the scene. So she aborts the torpedoes, and I think I was literally getting ahead of myself here. I forgot to mention the Alpha group bit because he kind of is a little bit like Groot Murf, isn't he? That's how I look at him now because he's changed. He's more hardcore now. I love the little guy.
In other words, eventually when he starts talking, he's going to go, "I am Murf. I am Murf."
I
can see it now.
That works. At this stage, Gwen's telling Dal she actually thinks he's better than O'Connor because this is at the stage, Gray, that Dal's actually, kind of a bit down and a bit sad about everything that happened. Right. And she's like, no, but she plays it in a kind of cool way. She's like, no, O'Connor is cool. Yeah, he's great. No, but you're better. That kind of little pause there. And I note here that maybe
family time,
cartoon family time. Get a room.
Yeah.
It seems that this bit was a bit weird because they're going up the elevator, almost back at the Protostar, and Murf's kind of randomly just deployed himself like a kite.
Yeah.
Over to, I don't know why. Maybe to keep them warm because they've got their helmets on. What was that about?
I think they were doing it, or Murf was doing it, which is okay because again, it's the family. Murf loves his family, and he wants to make sure that nobody falls off this thing. So he just stretches himself.
Yeah, I think it's more
like in a canopy around the capsule or whatever.
Yeah, because they've got suits on, they'll get helmets and stuff, haven't they? So
right.
At this, they do make it back to the Protostar. It seems like this space elevator is the longest in the bloody universe because it's going up forever. But they do get back to the Protostar in one piece in the end. Rock is doing she's doing a science log, and she's really happy because she doesn't need to do the security role anymore now that we've got Murf stepping up. She's really happy. Her first proper science log. Let's not forget, her main love and cause was science. It's just that she was asked to do strength things, security things, tactical things purely because of her size, which is a bit sizist, safe to say. So everyone's got the proper position and stuff. Now, as we're wrapping up here the episode, this was the cool part here that maybe stopped it being less of a score than it was. But right at the end, that ensign comes into the room that the diviner's in. She's changed accent. She's now got an English accent. Turns out she's not who she seems she is.
Even worse, could have been Scottish, but yeah.
I'll let that slide.
Just ribbing you.
She says to the diviner, they have. I would not have been able to take it seriously. She tells the diviner they've run out of time. She taps something on the table in front of the diviner. The table morphs. At this stage, I'm thinking Transformers have crossed over with Star Trek.
Of course.
And the table turns into Dreadnought. I thought it was a Dreadnought. Dreadnought. The robot from the start. Remember the big robot guy? He looks like the one from Star Wars.
The one that supposedly died.
Because it's not the same one, though. So it's not the same one.
I would think it's not, right?
No. She activates something on her neck, again, it looks like this augmentation thing, but it's not. It's more civilized.
Another button. Yeah, just click the button and everything is,
They just called it. They should have just called this episode's buttons. But she activates this, and she turns into the same species as the diviner. I don't recall what that is, but now I thought this was cool. This little bit here, but you're talking about the benefit of the doubt here, Gray. Did you like this bit at the end? Did you not like this bit at the end?
I had some trouble with it because but again, I want to preface this by saying I'm giving the benefit of the doubt since we don't know what the next episode is yet because it's not out yet. But based on just what I'm seeing, I was trying to figure out now how did the ensign get away with being on the Dauntless this long? Because apparently it seems like she has a bit of a rapport with the Vice Admiral Janeway. So I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, so then, she's been with Starfleet for a little while. So, but then all of a sudden she's one of the diviners race from the future. And I'm going like, this just doesn't make sense. It's not adding up. And it's again, I'd look at it as being another writing problem, making things too easy, and just kind of like, let's go with this idea. Well, how are we going to explain this one? It doesn't matter. Just do it anyway. And that's the impression I get. It's too easy again. We have the stupid button in the back of her neck thing again, which is just, I'm getting really tired of this thing. Like, because we're from the future, I can push a button and turn into, what? I mean, to me, these are writing crutches. Don't sit there and make everything so believable because they came from the future. I mean, come on.
Kid show.
So
last time last time.
And so I'm just like, come on, this is just
silly.
It's just like the whole episode's like this, and all the way to the end, it's like this. Now, if they come up with a really good reason of how all this came to be by the next episode or whatever, fine, I'll eat my words a little bit on this. But it just seems to be the theme of the whole episode. Everything is way too easy. Everything is not thought out. Everything is not explained right. Everything that's done seems to be we'll just write this garbage and just hope that then just figure that everybody will fall for it. I mean, wow, man, if you're going to sit there and write a show, one of the things that I think that's impressed me, and I think you too, Trev, is the fact that it's a pretty, up to this point anyway, it's been a pretty well-written show. And yes, there's scenes here and there that are a little, I hate to use the word juvenile, but I'm going to say a little cartoony or whatever because I get it. It is a show meant for a younger audience. So I let some of that stuff go, but they don't drown you with it though.
Yeah.
They just do it here and there, and you just kind of like, whatever. But now this whole episode, the entire thing was all this garbage. It just was the same junk over and over again. Cartoony stuff, Bugs Bunny kind of stuff, idiot writing, looking at things that just don't make any sense whatsoever. And no explanation. I mean, the whole episode from top to bottom is like this. And so I come up to my rating, and I only give it a 5 out of 10 because it's just, I mean, it's the first bad episode, I guess, out of everything I've seen so far. I think
we'll give them that.
Yeah. So they did make it through 14 episodes before they got the stupid one. I just hope this isn't a trend.
It's not going down now.
Exactly, because I would hate that because the same thing happened to Lower Decks because Lower Decks' last 3 shows were awful, and they went from the real high and this went like this, and I just hope this doesn't happen with this show because then we're in for some more dumb shows to come.
It may get worse next week. The episode we could have, instead of Dal getting augmentations, it could be the Protostar has augmentations. And what I mean by that is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and whatever they call that drive where it morphs into many different things.
Yeah.
It could go outside. And hey, we don't know what next week's episode's about because we haven't seen it. It's in the future. But you know who does know? The diviner and that ensign, because they're from the future. They know what next week's episode's about.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Of course, so they know what's going to happen.
In other words, they're writing it. They're writing
it, yeah. I give it a 6 out of 10. I usually go slightly higher than Gray because Gray's he's a very tough customer to please. And rightly so. 6 out of 10 for me, 5 out of 10 for Gray. It wasn't amazing. It had some funny moments, but hopefully next week is the last 5 episodes it's coming down to. We'll get them. It'll go into just the new year, I think, after the year before it finishes. No break scheduled. So yeah, we'll wrap up there. Not an amazing episode. Hopefully it's just a one-off. We'll do the usual call to arms, please. Of course, please always put comments below. That's sometimes more important than the thumbs up and the subscribe, because we like to hear people's opinions. If they don't like something or they do like something, mention it. We do one-offs and specials as well. So if you've got ideas as well for that, let us know. You can catch us on the Trekway on Twitter, and on all good audio podcast platforms, because we're on that as well. Take the audio from this video and stick it on there. And then you can join Gray and I and two of our other colleagues on Gray's podcast, which is Gray's Green Room. He does that once a month. There's an episode just up, actually. We're talking about a bunch of things. You can get Gray as well on Gray's Green Room on Twitter. He's available on YouTube as well now, as well as podcasts and platforms. And then lastly, but not least, we do a gaming pod along with our colleague Nick every Thursday, or most Thursdays anyway, called Extreme PC UK. If you go to their website, there's a Discord link in there, and you can go into our entertainment corner and talk all things entertainment, and of course Star Trek. That's allowed in there too. I may pay a tenner to him each month to get my own Trekway room, or maybe I won't. I don't know. You never paid him a tenner, so let's see how that goes. Anyway, right, digress.
Oh no, I did.
Did you? You're actually doing it. Oh, even you don't get away with it. Oh no.
I want to, you
You have to
do my fair share, kind of thing.
He's not abusing admin powers at all. Good, that's what I like to hear, Gray. Okay, so yeah, no, thanks for that, Gray. It was a difficult one. We've managed to record for over an hour, despite it not being one of the better episodes. So, what can I say? Thanks, Gray. We'll wrap up there. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, do your thing, Gray.
Bye-bye. Live long and prosper.
See you later. Bye-bye.